So welcome. My name is Mary Christine Nitzi. I'm the president of Harvard Alumni for Mental Health, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you tonight for an event centered around mindfulness and practices to support your well-being. We're delighted that we're going to be recording this event so that those of you who wish to look at it asynchronously from different time zones, we're a global network of alumni, so we know we can't cover all time zones, and we'll be happy to make it available to you asynchronously. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce our Director of Community Services, Saifang Zhu, who was born in China and is joining us now after having majored in religion and minored in psychology at Harvard Divinity School. He has a clinical internship from San Francisco and then went on to getting his PhD in psychology. Since Harvard, he has been integrating psychology and meditation. It has resulted in a model that he calls meditation-initiated integrative therapy, which he uses in and outside of his counseling and meditation center in Beijing. As an internationally published scholar and practitioner of wellness, Saifang is joining him to animate some of the events that we will be hosting within the community service umbrella. Saifang, it's my pleasure to let you lead us through this workshop on mindfulness. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nitzi, our president, dear president. I'm happy to share this, to share my experience. This is a practice of mindfulness, regardless of the consequences, regardless of the interpretations. We are just being mindful of what is happening and make no judgments. Now, I'm going to show some of my PowerPoints. So this is the title, as you can see, and I'm going to invite you to do a 3-minute meditation practice right at the beginning. If everybody please just say, sit up and sit comfortably. Sit up and comfortably in your chair, I believe. Well, have a sense of your floor. Your feet are stepping on the floor, and feel the strength. Feel your strength. Feel the strength of your feet on the floor, and the floor is kind of supporting your feet. Have a concrete sense of that, and also feel that you are really sitting on a chair. The weight is really on a chair. Sitting upright as much as you can. And then you can shake yourself a little bit to make sure you are stable on the chair. Try not to lean against the chair unless you have very serious back issues, back pains. Now we are going to observe after this little preparation, and hopefully you are in a room where it is not too dark, not completely dark, nor very sunny, very blind, very strong sunshine to blind your eyes. It's mild light is good, okay? And then just observe, just look inward. Look inward to feel what is going on in your mind and body, which means what is going on in terms of thoughts or physical sensations or emotions. You may say, I'm fine, that's fine, but just give you a little scan, okay? A scan to see what is happening in your mind and body and emotion. Very quickly, 1 minute. You don't have to have any conversation with any of those phenomenon. Just be aware of what's going on. All right, now pay attention to your breathing. Stop looking at your thoughts and your emotions and your sensations. Pay attention to just pay attention to your breathing. Breathing in with your nose and breathing out with your mouth in a natural rhythm, just natural rhythm, but you're paying attention to it. That's the practice for a minute. Okay, then try to extend your breathing throughout the whole body, which means when you're breathing in, try to extend, at least imagine to extend your breathing throughout your body. It could mean it's a deeper breathing, or it could mean, it may also mean you're breathing, but you're imagining or you're feeling the energy is going through your whole body, and then you breathe out. I feel the same thing. As much as you can. Okay, I think this is maybe already 3 minutes. Now, if you were closed, if you had your eyes closed, now you can open your eyes and come back to the reality. Look around, just look around your environment to get yourself reoriented. And you can little, you can like this, or massage your body a little bit. Just gently massage your body. This is a reminder that we are finished with a little meditation. We are back to the normal consciousness. We are no longer in this altered states of consciousness. Okay. I'm not going to do the reflecting or responding. It's more complicated. So this like very brief meditation, maybe 3 minutes to make ourselves say really present, present at the place where you are and present with what you are doing. Now let's say, because this topic is power of mindfulness from east to west. I'm going to start with the East meditations, and then I will talk about the Western, the popular Western meditations to see what is the major difference. Then we'll have a little more practice, a little longer practice, followed by Q&A, and that's it. Okay. Okay. I will be kind of brief because time is running out. So this is a very essential Buddhist meditation methods. Basically, shamatha and vipassana, classical meditations. Okay. Shamatha means concentrating, stabilizing. You know, you have your attention directed to breathing, just directed to breathing in and out, or you have your attention directed to some objects, real objects, physical objects. For example, a book, even a computer, a secular object. Or it could be an icon. It could be a natural object like the moon. In your mind, you are concentrating on the moon. In your mind, a mental image. The purpose is to concentrate, to gather your concentration, so that you can be more attentive. That's the training purpose. But this is only one of the practices, one of the methods. The other one is called vipassana in Pali. Shamatha also in Pali. Vipassana means observing and watching. It's a process. You know, you're not really concentrated on just one point or one object. Rather, your attention is following the object which is moving, or you're following a group of people, or you're following a phenomenon. For example, the mind itself. The mind can be jumping around. We have different thoughts coming up, and you just, you know, be aware of what is coming in, what is going out, what is going away, and what sensations you're having right now. You are all aware. You're aware of different. You're observing different things, the sensations, the emotion, the thoughts, but you're not attached to any of them. You're just being aware of these things, and you're not concentrating on one thing only. So it's a little different from shamatha, as you can see, right? Now in real practice, in real practice, usually shamatha and vipassana in Chinese 止和观, 止禅和观禅, they are used interchangeably. They are used together because the mind can never be able to concentrate on one object for even 1 minute. Maybe some people can say 1 minute, 3 minutes, but it can never be too long. So your mind wanders away, wanders about. The mind shifts. So in that case, you use vipassana, or just observing, just following what the mind is going, and that's another practice. So in practice is a double practice, 止观双运 in Chinese. Now these techniques, these basic shamatha and vipassana are actually rooted in the very original Buddhism. When the Buddha was alive, he was teaching these techniques or these methods. And then when Buddhism developed over centuries across different continents, different countries, these two basic techniques are shared in different denominations in Buddhism. Although it was still very much, they are still very much the core practice of what is known Theravada Buddhism in Southeast Asian countries mainly. Not so much in China, not so much in Japan, Korea, Tibet, not so much in probably in the States, in Europe as either. but very much so in Southeast Asian countries. So those two basic methods, but there are different layers, different stages, or different levels of practice. I listed all these. Secular meditation is probably what we are doing today in the secular world. Not exactly, okay. But then after the secular meditation, traditionally, you may enter into the full dhyana, the real. Let's say if a professional is not a good word, let's say more monastic, okay. Full dhyana, or full dhyana is Sanskrit, or jhana in Pali words, which means full levels of absorptions, deeper and deeper concentration, until at the fourth level you have only one pointedness. You have only the awareness of one pointedness. You have nothing else. You have no physical sensation. You have no the sense of feeling. You have no. You don't even have the sense of the body at all. No sense of smelling. Not even joy. They all dissipated. They all dissipate. There is only one pure awareness. That's at the height of the fourth dhyana, the highest. So I'm not going into too much details. It's very complicated. So this is a called the dhyana. Now there are levels. What I want to say is in dhyana, or in the shamatha. Okay, shamatha and dhyana, they are basically interchangeable. There are different levels, many layered practices. Now for the vipassana, which we mentioned, mostly people learn the practice of vipassana through these two texts. One is called Anapanasati Sutta. That's again Pali word, a Pali language. In Chinese called Anban Shou Yi Jing, a very short text, maybe 2,000 words, even less. And the same is true about the same length as Satipatthana Sutta, Sinen Chu Jing. These two very basic texts are still very influential in Southeast Asian countries, Buddhist practice. And very short, but very basic. And it teaches you how to breathe when you're breathing in, breathing out, and you pay attention to your body, then pay attention to your emotion, to your cognition, and then you pay attention to the flowing of the phenomenon within your mind and outside your mind, in the physical world. In other words, when it comes to the final stage of meditation practice, according to these two suttas, you realize that things are all moving, nothing is permanent. Things in your mind is also impermanent. They are just on a continuum, flowing and flowing. Nothing is permanent. And then you realize I'm not going to grasp anything. I'm going to practice I'm going to practice detachment to the phenomenon, so that I will be liberated. That's the word. I will be liberated. I will have emancipation. The psychological issues or disillusionment are all from our attachment, our strong attachment to the world, which we think should be permanent, should be everlasting, should be all there, including relationship. Okay. So that's the basic thrust of the classical or the traditional practice in Theravada Buddhism. You practice and practice, you get some calm, you get some harmony, and you get some joy, and finally you're gonna give up all these, you know, all these achievements, so to speak, and you realize I'm not going to be attached to anything. I'm going to be open and observing and be free. That's the purpose. Well, they even can disavow the world because Theravada Buddhism is a fairly the otherworldly, to say, to use this word, the otherworldly or transcendental. They think they see this world, our phenomenal world, our human world even, as a really not really worth they attention to, and so they would you know, go to the forest and live alone and practice and be. Of course, they realize later on they need to also have people to support them, and so they have but they minimize this kind of interaction and dependence on the physical world. They do want to. They do need to go out to beg with the bowl because they need to have you know, they have some food. So that's a very, so therefore their life is extremely simple, extremely simple. And that's why they have to be a monastic. Now, of course, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean people cannot practice unless they are monastics. That's not true, but they are not able to achieve their level as the monastics expect. In China, we have a fairly different, slightly different practice, traditional practice. It's I give you this 10 pictures. I call it the spiritual path of Chan Buddhism / Zen Buddhism. The Japanese word Zen is from Chinese word Chan. And Chan is the pronunciation, is a transliteration of the Indian word, the Sanskrit word dhyana, Channa. Okay. Well, simply put it simple, Chan or Zen means the practice of the cultivation of the mind, the cultivation of the thinking. I think this is a very, very basic definition. Now, those of you who are not able to read Chinese may feel interesting, but you feel very much bewildered. You feel at loss. What the heck is this about? It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. The human, the spiritual practice, the path of the spiritual practice is likened to herding an ox or herding a bull, an ox. Okay, and therefore it's called the 10 ox herding pictures. 10 stages. You're from stage one to stage 2, it's a complete, although not everybody is going to follow this completely, but it's a guideline for Chan practitioners in China, and maybe in Japan and Korea as well, are very much in their tradition. You begin to search for the ox, in search of the ox. You're looking for the bull or the ox, and the ox is symbolized as the human nature, the original human nature. Okay, many people today feel meaningless, feel their life is meaningless, cannot find any meaning in their life. Unlike the existentialists, where we are thrown into this world without any meaning. But we have to look for our meaning by ourselves. We have to make a decision, make a conscious decision, and then to be responsible for your decision. This makes meaning. The existentialists would argue this is meaning making by their philosophy, but Chan Buddhists have a different view, as you can see from here. So looking for the ox means simple. It can be understood as you're starting to look for some meaning in your life. Okay, and then the second stage is you discover some footprints. You discover something that might be meaningful. Okay, you start to get some hints, and then you perceive the ox. This is perceiving the ox. You see some meaning, then you catch it. You catch the ox. Okay. Can you see it, Marie and Christine? Can you see the pictures? I'm sure it's a little small.
Yes, we can see it. Now that you're explaining, the series makes sense. I'm very curious about the end of the story, but I'm gonna listen and let you
Okay.
get there.
Okay, it's coming soon. The end of the story. Okay, you catch the ox and you tame it very logically, right? You could, because the ox, your nature, or your personality, it can be very rough, can be very, it may be even antisocial sometimes. We have antisocial personality, so you have to tame it. You catch it, you realize, okay, you need to tame it. You need to learn something, social learning, or you go to see a therapist to change some of your behaviors and your cognition, even your values. When the ox is tamed to some extent, now you are going to ride the ox home, and then the ox transcended. This is This is riding home. Riding home, very beautiful, very poetic. The guy, the master, yourself actually, it's ego actually. It's ego. The ego is, I would say, to use the analytic word concept, this person is the ego. He's now enjoying riding the horse, and he's playing the flute. It's a beautiful play, and with the landscape, so it's very enjoyable. Now, okay, this is 6. 7. Now the ox transcended. No more ox. Okay. I am not going into very much detail. So only the person. Okay. The moon. Now here, this one. This is a highlight. The 8th one. Both the ox and the self. I would say I'm going to write paper maybe to discuss whether the self should be the ego, or should be the self. I mean, it all depends on how we interpret. We are psychologists. We know each and every term is justified in its own context. But what do we mean by ego and by self? Carl Jung may be different, has a different understanding of the ego and self from Freud. And a cohort, Hans Cohort, has his self-psychology, and Rogers has his own meaning of the self. Probably they have slightly different definition of the self or the ego. But let's say basically we are not going to into the shades of differences. At this time, this 8th one, it's a highlight. This is a highlight of the Chan Buddhism. And it can be said it's a highlight of Buddhism in general. It's the transcendence. The ox self is both are transcended. Your ego. In Jung's psychology, ego is the part of the complete consciousness. Now, ego is part of the consciousness, but the self is both the consciousness and unconscious. Does this make sense? This is I'm using the Jung's lens, Carl Jung's perspective, his definition. Anyway, transcended, complete. Well, nothingness would sound very nihilistic, but I would say it's a complete union. It's a complete union of the self, the environment, and the self, the ego, the ox, because they are completely mingled, completely united. Therefore, there's no separate ox, no separate self, no separate trees, and the objects in the world. It's complete. It's a mystical experience. It's the pure consciousness. Pure consciousness remains. Nothing else you know, so that's why it's a zero. Okay, which means you have no personal thoughts, you have no projection at all. You have no personal projection into this world, even into your your body. Okay, yeah. You simply watch, and purely it's a pure awareness, pure consciousness. All right. Then Marine Christine, now we are going to reach. It's called reaching the source. Sometimes returning to the source. When you have a complete awareness of the world, of yourself, you see the world as it is. You see the world as it is. That's reaching the source. That's called reaching the source, cognitively, spiritually. And it's I think another manifestation of the pure consciousness. It's a manifestation. It's like in the mirror. Okay, the mirror is completely clean. That's stage 8. And then what is in the mirror is the world, is what is reflected, the source, the reality. Okay. The last stage is returning to society. When you have reached such kind of a spiritual attainment, you decide to go back to the world, go back to the society to help people, to be like this monk with a big belly, with a big bag on his back, and the big bag on his back is supposed to be the container, like a therapist. The therapist is usually compared to a container where the clients can throw their psychological trash into the bag. And this Chan master is doing the same thing, although he is not known as a therapist. He's attained, he's enlightened, awakened practitioner of Chan Buddhism, and he's helping people in need in the society, and literally he's in the market. Okay, all right. So that's the highlight. That's the complete stage. Now, how much time do I have?
You still
All
have
right.
about 15 minutes.
I'll speed up. Now, let's shift to the Western mindfulness movement. I'm going to through very quickly. You can see this. Okay, this list of major events that I listed. I have followed this pretty closely. The Western development, the Western mindfulness movement. Okay. So the highlight is when John Kabat-Zinn, the book For Catastrophe Living. I read it very closely from cover to cover with my students. This book I also read very closely with my students from cover to cover. And these articles, Mind Business, about it, it says by that time, at least 1/4 of the major international companies in USA are offering meditation or yoga practices during their break at work. This is what this article says, the Financial Times, and that was about 10 years ago. I think maybe now at least maybe half of the major big businesses, international companies, in Google, they start this very early. They offer their employees the time and the space for their practice of meditation or yoga. No longer just a coffee break, it's a meditation practice, meditation break. So the Times had this cover story, Mindful Revolution, the science of finding focus in stressed out multitasking culture. An interesting article. I could give you the link later on. This is a particularly, for targeting the US readers. It's a science for the stressed out multitasking culture. And then, okay, in 2017, I attended a conference called From Mindfulness to Heartfulness. This is the president, David de Brazier. I was invited to attend and give a speech. I gave a keynote address, which is now on my LinkedIn as a video. So they realized, mindfulness itself is not enough. We need to have also heartfulness, because mindfulness appears to be a little bit cool, but rational. Is lacking some kind of warmth. Maybe not much warmth, not much enthusiasm. You can. This is I'm here. Okay, I'm here leading a workshop using my model called meditation initiated integrative therapy. And this is Abbe in Belgium. Now, recently, indeed, just early this year, I attended online this conference from, it's called Compassion in Therapy Summit. Okay, these mindfulness organizations or centers, they organize such a conference summit. Very interesting. They claim that 70,000 people attended from about 70 countries in the world. This is the itinerary. I see compassion into therapy, and compassion is brought into therapy. As I said, people might have already realized that mindfulness is cool, but it's a little aloof, a little rational, little cognition based. So they want to bring some warmth and a compassion. So this is a trend. This is a now research is very there is a surprising amount of research done in the States and across the world in mindfulness. Usually together with neuroscience, let's say your expertise, Marie-Christine. There's a huge number of articles published in 2020. In 2020, you see, in 2020 alone, 2,808 articles are published on this topic, mindfulness, the science of mindfulness. What is mindfulness? John Kabat-Zinn says, mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. We have another mindfulness definition. It means paying attention to what is happening in the present moment, in the mind, body, and external environment, with an attitude of curiosity and kindness. So there's some quality here with kindness. I think this is, again, also a response to my earlier suspicion, or to the suspicion of many people. Mindfulness itself is a little aloof. It is cool, but it is maybe not very warm, not very human. Forgive me to use this word. So I like this definition a little better than the previous one. And this is from actually a Mindful Nation UK report. Interesting, see the Parliament, the UK Parliament, they have such kind of group, okay? Mindfulness all-party parliamentary group. They have very, very significant report written in 2015. And I know in America there's a congressman. He wrote a book called The Mindful Nation. I think he's a senator. I forgot his name. This is the Financial Times. That's the article. See, this is what's happening in the company. During the break, they start to sit and meditate. Mindfulness, meditation. Usually they go together. Mindfulness is a meditation, but it's a relatively popular meditation. This is a spotlight story, the mindful revolution. Now, I think I'm going to skip mindful parenting. John Kabat-Zinn, he did very well in his upbringing, in bringing up his children. He said bringing up a child is challenging, but it's self-growing experience of practicing mindfulness. And even attending retreat, it's like a retreat, except that raising kids were not as quiet as simple. So he said raising each child is like an 18 years of long retreat, which consists of easy and then hard periods. Wonderful and then deeply painful moments. The practice consists in seeing constantly changing needs of his children. I'm not going to read into details. So I think he did a very good job in bringing mindfulness practice into the mundane life, into the secular life, into the everyday life today in the US and in the world. It's no longer a privilege of the monastics. They can be not very mystical. They can be very down to earth and like this. So in the word, my summary is, last night I hit on this idea that probably to use one sentence to summarize the transition from the East to the West in terms of mindfulness, the one sentence is, you can tell me how it sounds. The transition is from liberation to function. Function in a society, maybe. Liberation, spiritual liberation to the function in a society. I think that's the shift of the focus, the shift of the emphasis. You can tell me how it sounds. Now let's practice maybe 5 more minutes. Okay, maybe just three more minutes. Sorry, time. Just 3 more minutes. Sit and keep breathing. Let's practice breathing. Breathing using the Vipassana. Okay, can just keep yourself grounded again as we did before. If you were here earlier, ground yourself by feeling the weight of your feet on the ground, by feeling your weight on the chair, and sit upright and relax. The eyes can be half closed to prevent too much stimuli from sunshine. And your hands on your laps. Then watch your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out naturally. In the meantime, you may be aware of the sensations, thoughts, emotions, and even the sounds outside, the noise. But your focus is on breathing. You're aware of what is going on, but your focus is on breathing. And bring your breathing back to bring your attention to the focus of breathing if your mind happens to wander around. Okay, let's practice just 3 minutes for the sake of shortage of time. All right, folks. Open your eyes and shake yourself a little bit, or you massage your body to get yourself back to the normal state of consciousness. Okay, bring yourself down to earth and stop drifting, stop wandering in the spiritual world. Bring back to your body, to this world, and to harm, and to this virtual world, virtual conference. Say, now I don't know. Can I ask? Can I have one question if there is, and then I will pass it to Marine Christine to wind up. She has a survey. Is there a question? Is there any question that you feel like you want to ask? I would be happy to give a brief answer if you give me just 1 minute.
I don't know that I have a question, but I have a comment. If you allow me.
Rosie?
Yes.
Yes, of course. You're most welcome.
I'll be honest with you. This is very enlightening. It's probably the most enlightening. This is an area where I'm most ignorant, and I'll be honest with you. I've attended conferences in our ACA. I've actually participated in their sessions of mindfulness, but I never understood what they're talking about. You broke it down to the point where I get the baseline, and I want to say a big thing. I want to say a big thank you. Yes. From now on, it will start making sense.
Glad.
Yes.
I'm glad you have this feeling. Yeah.
I agree with Ngozi. I think Lauren is also in agreement. There's a question in the chat that Anna is asking. Anna, if that's okay, I'm gonna voice your question. Anna is asking, can you talk more about the ox transcending? How does it happen?
Okay, briefly. Now the ox is, the ox transcending is in picture 7, right? The ox itself both transcended is in picture 8. In the Buddhist theory, you transcend the environment first, then you transcend yourself finally, and then you're really liberated. So the ox can be so let's see, when we are meditating, okay, when you're meditating, you gradually, you're into your calmness, and you're concentrating on your thoughts, on your maybe bodily sensations. So yourself is still there, but the external world, or the external world, or the ox, the ox can be, let's put it simply, the other is transcended. Only yourself is still there because you're watching your thoughts. And the noise outside, the natural environment, although they are still there, but they are no longer entering, they are no longer bothering you, you're no longer concerned. When you're no longer concerned, you're liberated, you're transcending it. How does it sound?
Yes.
Yeah, all the issues, all the issues, even the relational issues, even your relation to the ox, is no longer there, but you're only aware of, you're only mindful of your moment by moment breathing, your thoughts. So the self is still there. That's why stage 8 is going to transcend the self as well. But in stage 7, only the ox is transcended.
Thank you for this reply. And just to clarify, before that, it looks like you need to have a very good grasp of the ox. Like you need to know it, you need to conquer it, you need to understand it, and then it transcends, right?
Yes. Actually, I can give this lecture in maybe 3 hours, paving the way. And the earlier on, more psychological. You're looking for yourself, you're looking for meaning. And you have a lot of troubles in your relationship, in your job, in your personality, in your behavior. So you start to look for ways to make your life meaningful, sensible. And you look around, and you see some footprints, you see some signs of hope, some signs of hope. And maybe you go to a therapist, and you go to see a friend, you go to see a priest, or a master, a Buddhist monk, or a father, or a pastor, whoever, or just a fellow student, fellow colleague. You work through these issues, and you really, but the ego is still there. The ego is still strong. Then you have to transcend the ego as well. This is farther than psychology. That's why it's spirituality. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Anna. There's a lot of work earlier before, but many people are so interested in the stage 7 and 8. Immediately they jump over the previous practices, how they work through those issues gradually.
Thank you. That so to speak makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Integrate. I use the word integrate. So that's why my center is called Counseling and Meditation Center. I start with counseling, personal issues, relational issues, and then gradually, we may have something higher, if you wish to explore. But if you don't wish, let's just stop there at the human level, at the social, socially agreed norms and values. All right, Dr. Nitzi.
I very much appreciated the comments, the questions that have come through the chat and also verbally in our conversation just now. In particular, because of my own roots into philosophy, I appreciated how you build the bridge between East and West in, the traditional Greek philosophy of Heraclitus saying everything always changes, to then saying, well, mindfulness can be this attention to how things are always changing and transcending the self. After 15 years studying the self, you gave me a different route into thinking about what transcending the self might look like through this attention to the changes in everyday life. And so perhaps that's a practice that we can all take with us and try to integrate in everyday life, perhaps noticing a new thing every day on your commute, or noticing the subtle changes in those relationships of the people who live with you, who work with you, those people you think you know and anticipate, perhaps training and being mindful and training your attention to those subtle changes. Thank you very much for having led us in this conversation tonight.
I'm sure you have a lot to offer through your philosophy training and through your neuroscience training to compare notes with this classical spiritual path. But we'll get some other time to delve into it. Okay.
Absolutely. And I wanted to tell our audience actually about that we will have a continuation of this event in the coming month. So if you're interested in exploring mindfulness further, there's a mindfulness panel that Zaifeng is going to lead on November 22nd. Did you want to say a few words about it, Zaifeng?
Yes. I already pulled together a few people who are willing to be the panelists. That's the title is already there. It's called One Practice, Many Approaches. The mindfulness for panel. I think based upon their own experiences and profession. One professor is a professor at the University of Denver. She's a health psychology professor. She might approach from health, healthcare. How mindfulness is used as healthcare, as a means of healthcare. And one Harvard alumni, he used the mindfulness to steer through his relationship issues. He's going to tell us his stories, and I already told you something about myself. So a little different approaches, but one practice that's pointing to more or less the same thing. Depending on how far you want to go.
There you go. So for those of you who are interested in joining us for a longer conversation and diving deeper, hearing multiple voices in our continued understanding of mindfulness, please feel free to join us. I put in the chat a link that you can subscribe to in order to get our newsletter that will tell you in advance all of our events. And as you're seeing, we're a volunteer-led organization, and we are collecting your feedback on this short survey to help us design the programming of the coming month. So if you appreciate this program, if you want to give us feedback, feel free to go on our website, fill the survey that is up on the screen right now. And then you know that you can also support future events when we bring in speakers, as Saifang was talking about. We are soliciting support from our membership, and there is a nice new donation button on the website. So feel free to also go there. That's what allows us to bring you the most informed and insightful and cross-cultural speakers so that we can really speak to these concepts and topics that we're all passionate about from a variety of voices and a variety of perspectives. It was a real pleasure to have all of you here join us tonight, and we'll also put the recording on the website in a little while. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon. Have a good night, everyone.